Darkest Dungeon 2 takes a new turn on the original's acclaimed roguelike. A lot has changed. This is not going to be a review of what's better or worse, but what you should know to help you get started through the chaos. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dustin Duran, and I will be going over the basics of Darkest Dungeon 2, everything that has changed since the first game, and how best to set yourself up to win. Except you will fail. A lot. That is the game. Alright, let's get to it. So first of all, if you did play any of the beta on the Epic Games Store, you will have a one-time chance to transfer your beta progress to your Steam account. Otherwise, if you're playing through the Epic Games Store, you should be able to continue your profile, which is pretty nice. Before this, I'm going to assume you're going to be starting from a brand new run. So if you're familiar with the first Darkest Dungeon, Darkest Dungeon 2 is going to play much differently. The heroes you find will be the same, how you fight is the same, but pretty much everything else is going to be different. So how this is going to work now is you're going to choose 4 heroes, you're all going to get in the Stagecoach, and you're going to make one run through a total of 5 areas, passing through 3 inns, all to get to this mountain where you'll have to face a final boss. Unlike the first game, your heroes won't be saved. Not in the same way, at least. You will have a city that you can progress, similar to the first one. But think of this game as, instead of you picking 4 heroes to go out and do 1 dungeon, you're going to pick 4 heroes, and they're going to attempt to go through 5 dungeons back to back, with 3 rest stops in between. And now I'll get through a little more of the specifics. So when you start up your very first run, you're going to have to go through a prologue run, which is pretty good at introducing you to the game. And all that's going to be is you traveling through the intro area, you fight 2 battles, you get to the inn, and then you end the expedition. And then after that, then you'll get the chance to start a full run like you normally would. So when you're doing a regular run, the first thing you're going to come to is your city, and you'll be able to do your upgrades in the city. I'll get to that later, but here, during the prologue, you're going to start at the crossroads. This is where you're going to select your 4 heroes. You're only going to have 4 heroes unlocked at the start. You're going to have your Man-at-Arms, the Highwayman, the Grave Robber, and the Plague Doctor. You'll recognize the names of the characters, including our good pal Dismas. And so there'll be 5 tabs for each of these characters here on the right. It'll show some generic info, it'll show their skills, their quirks, paths, and their story progress. First off, with the info, it's just going to give some generic information about what they do, and it'll show a goal. So each hero will have a goal during this run, in which I'll get into this more, but candles, that is going to be your town currency. That is how you're going to upgrade your characters, you're going to get more items. Everything you do within the town, you're going to need candles. Next up, we have the skills. So each hero is going to start off with 5 skills. You can have 5 skills equipped at a time, and then to unlock more of these skills, you're going to have to progress through each of their stories, and you'll be able to see that at this bottom tab, the story tab, and you need to visit Shrines of Reflection. So as you're going through your runs, watch for hero shrines. And when you visit a hero shrine, you'll get a chance to progress the story of any one of your 4 heroes that are in the party currently. Each hero has 5 parts to their story. As you complete each part of their story, you'll unlock 1 additional ability. And then when you complete the finals part of their story, you'll unlock the final 2 abilities. I will be making separate videos for every hero's complete story and how to beat those fights, so be on the lookout for those. As for the paths, you'll unlock these in the town. Each hero has 4 different paths they can select, and they all have very unique benefits. You're only going to start off with 1 though, which is going to be the same for every character, and that is the Wanderer, which is going to give you +1 candle if you reach the 2nd inn. And now for the Quirks tab, which is probably the one you want to pay attention to the most. Just like in Darkest Dungeon 1, your characters can get positive and negative quirks, but in Darkest Dungeon 2, every hero will start with 1 random positive quirk and 1 random negative quirk. And as you go through the run, they can gain positive and negative quirks, and both the positive and negative quirks can be reinforced. So as an example right here, we got Unyielding, which is currently reinforced, which is what this symbol here means. So this is giving him plus 10% death resist, which if you're not familiar from the original game, once a character's health gets to 0, they have a death resist chance. So right now, Dismas's death resist chance is 76%. And then for his negative trait, Terrified of Hidden Cults and Their Influence, which a lot of these will be hard to tell, but as you're going through your runs, your team will have to make decisions, and they'll have relationship checks depending on what decisions you want to make. So any decision that you run into that is going to involve cults, Dismas is not going to like. So if you interact with any of those things, he's going to get negative relationship checks from that. But again, we'll get into the relationship checks later. So now as you're going through a regular run, if you have all your characters unlocked, what you're probably going to be doing is going through each of the positive and negative quirks, and you're probably going to be picking a team based on whoever has the best or least worst quirks. At the start, though, this is going to be your team. So the Stagecoach, your carriage, your coffin, your confessional, it will auto drive, and then you can fine tune the driving left and right, because there will be things in the middle of the road that you'll want to run into because there's a chance that they'll give you items. And another quick tip, I would suggest going into options, going to your controls, and the manual steering, I would turn this up almost to max. This will make it easier to run into the things in the road, because as the road is winding, you're going to find it kind of annoying as you're trying to steer into something, and the carriage just won't turn fast enough. And you can do a couple other things like their mouse driving hero sheet. If you're going through your inventory, the Stagecoach will automatically stop. And to get to your Stagecoach view, you just push Z, and you'll see a few different things with it that I'll get into later, but you're able to put a Radiant or Infernal Flame on it. This basically makes the game easier or harder. You'll have a trophy, which is required to enter the mountain, and then you'll be able to add Stagecoach items. You start off with 1 open slot, and you'll be able to unlock 3 more later on. And you can also unlock a pet slot. Last thing here is that you have health on your wheels and armor. You want to keep these maxed out because when it's at 100%, each hero gains plus 50% travel healing. And when the armor is full, each hero starts combat with a block. Now, if your wheels or armor go down to 0, the next time you were to take wheel damage or armor damage, you'll be forced into a unique fight where you'll have to fight off an ambush while simultaneously repairing. Your carriage does have an inventory limit. It does start out at 20, but it can be increased at the Altar of Hope, but your carriage will not be able to move if it's above that carry capacity. So you'll either have to go through your inventory, shift click or drag it out to get rid of it. Or ideally, you have open combat item slots or open trinket slots. So I'm not really going to talk about the combat, as it's basically the same thing as Darkest Dungeon 1, but I do want to talk briefly about the tokens, because they did add a lot more. If you hit escape and go to the menu, there will be a token glossary here. So a lot of the tokens are going to be the same from Darkest Dungeon 1. You'll be able to go through each of these if you're wondering specifically or need a reminder about what they do. Some new ones though, such as the combo token, triggers an additional skill effect when targeted. So, say if we use Dismas Tracking Shot, whatever he targets will add a combo token to it. Then, going back to the Man-at-Arms, if he hits that target with Crush, he's going to consume that combo token and self-heal for 10%. And you will see a lot of the characters have much more powerful effects with a combo token, so you can get some very powerful combos going. Something that can be very helpful, hover over an enemy and hold Alt. If you do that, you'll be able to see all their resistances, you'll be able to see their moves. As the character uses more moves, their moves are revealed, and any status effects will be shown over here. But that can be very helpful. As you're going through these runs, the currency you'll be picking up here is Relics, Mastery, and Baubles. Relics will be your main currency, though you'll be using to buy in-items, combat items, and most other things. Baubles are what you're going to be using to buy trinkets and Stagecoach items. And later on, you'll see to repair the wheels and armor when you get to an inn. And lastly, Mastery is when you get to an inn, you'll be able to upgrade any skill that you want for that run with 1 mastery point. And now with your combat items, as you pick up combat items, you'll be able to add one of them to a hero. They do have a max number that can be equipped. So with this Glimmer of Hope, you'll see that the max stack is 4, so he can only hold 4 at a time. And then at combat start for each hero, they have the chance before they do an ability to use their item once. You'll also have inn items. These can only be used at an inn, and they will include things like buffs for your heroes, health and stress healing items, and ways to improve relationships between the heroes, or possibly make them worse. So now, like the first game, you'll see a lot of the same trinkets. You'll be able to equip a maximum of 2 of them. Most of them will have a positive and negative, and you'll pick these up as you go through your run, and they will go away once you start a new run. Lastly, there will be Stagecoach items. These can only be installed at an inn, and they give you benefits as you're on your routes, such as increased scouting, additional inventory slots, and removing stress. Now, when you get to each inn, if you hover over the inn at the top left, it'll tell you the benefits of that inn. Also, when you reach an inn, you'll have a chance to gain a quirk, which can be positive or negative. At the bottom left, you'll be able to see what you can do at each inn. So the first thing, you can just end the expedition. You'll see how much hope you can collect if you just end it. You have a provisioner who will sell you random combat items, random inn items, random stagecoach items, and random trinkets, along with a radiant and infernal flame if you have the infernal flame unlocked. That is going to be back at the Altar of Hope. Basically putting your run on hard mode, but you'll be getting a lot more candles. In the reverse, the Radiant Flame will put the game on easy mode, but you'll get less candles. And 2, each time you fail a run, the Radiant Flame is going to get stronger. You have the Mastery Trainer, who you'll be able to use your Mastery points with, so she'll allow you to upgrade each individual skill. And as a reminder, this is only applied per run. So if you end the run, those upgrades do not stay. You also have the Wainwright, will allow you to add that Radiant or Infernal Flame. You can add a trophy if you've defeated a lair boss. This is where you can install your stagecoach items or swap them out, and where you can put in a pet, and where you repair your wheels or armor. Also, a side note, you can rename your carriage along with each one of your characters. And then the last thing you do is you'll pick a route. Each area will have a bonus or a negative, and 2, each route will have a goal plus a reward. And now as you leave the inn, you'll get a cool scene looking out into the new area. And this is where your positive and or negative relationship checks will happen. And that's a good time to look at the relationship checks. So when you're going through your run, every character will start off with a base 9, to where they're neutral with everyone else. You are obviously going to want, and I would say strongly want, to make sure that everyone has positive relations. Ways to improve heroes' relationships between each other, or possibly make them worse, include using inn items, in combat, using combat items or abilities on another hero that's in trouble, and making decisions at route locations. Because what's going to end up happening is after visiting an inn, as you leave the inn, there is going to be a relationship check between each one of your characters. So a total of 6 checks. So as an example of a positive relationship between my man-at-arms and the Plague Doctor, whenever my man-at-arms uses Defender, my Plague Doctor is going to gain Strength. And whenever my Plague Doctor uses Battlefield Medicine, my man-at-arms is going to get Dodge Plus. So yes, extremely useful. And again, too, with a positive relationship. So whenever my Highwayman uses Wicked Slice, Plague Doctor gets -1 stress. And whenever my Plague Doctor uses Noxious Blast, my Highwayman gets -1 stress. And then with a negative relationship between the Grave Robber and the Plague Doctor. So whenever my Grave Robber uses Thrown Dagger, it makes my Plague Doctor vulnerable. And whenever I use my Plague Doctor's Emboldening Vapors, my Grave Robber is going to become vulnerable. And what might be even worse, these are locked on as one of the 5 abilities. So before now, I had this turned off. This is going to be forced back on as one of my 5 abilities. I cannot remove it. So pretty much I'm down to 4 abilities instead of 5. So obviously, positive relationships are very important. Negative relationships, pretty bad. So just like the first game, your map will have an auto scout, and there'll be scouting checks all the way to the next inn. And this is where you'll plan your route. Every path you take will have something unknown in between each location, which could be nothing, could be a combat, could be a rough patch that damages your wheels, or it could be a hazard where you lose 1 armor, or an Oblivion Tear that will increase your loathing. At the very end of this route, you'll have this Oblivion's Rampart, which is where you'll fight the boss of the route. You complete that, and then you go to the next inn. As you're traveling, a couple things will happen. All your characters will slowly heal, and there will be random relationship checks. In the top right here will be the level of loathing. As this increases, your encounters will get tougher and tougher. It'll increase by going across Oblivion Tears or going to Oblivion locations, and you can reduce it by winning location battles, like resistance encounters and Lairs. If you do hit maximum loathing, the final boss is going to get a buff, your flame is going to go down, and your entire party will get stressed. When you're choosing routes, each hero is going to have an opinion on where you should go. If you select the route that they want, everyone's stress will go down by 1. But if you select a route that they don't want, all their stress is going to increase by 1. Now, as I've mentioned before, your end goal is to reach the mountain and defeat that confession's boss. And you will need a trophy to even enter the mountain, which you'll have to collect by defeating a special lair boss that's going to be in the middle of each of the routes. If you don't have a trophy, you're going to be forced to end the expedition. To gain a trophy, every route will have a lair as one of the locations. Each lair will be different depending on the route you select, but each one will have 3 layers to it. You'll be forced into the first fight, but once you beat that, you will have the chance to leave. Otherwise, you can advance, fight a slightly stronger group. Then when you defeat them, you can leave, or you can choose to fight the lair boss, who each one of the lair bosses will be extremely difficult. If you don't know what you're doing, you're probably going to lose. So if you are going to fight, be prepared. But before you fight, you will be able to see which trophy you'll get by defeating that boss. So that can help sway your decision. If you like the trophy, give it a shot. If the trophy sucks, just leave and try the next route's lair boss. Now finally, let's talk about the Altar of Hope. So I'm going to start back as if you just completed the prologue. Then I'll get to what the full city looks like. So as you reach the first inn of the prologue, you're going to be forced to end the expedition there. You're going to get 5 candles out of it, but you'll be able to see all the different ways that you can gain candles. And now you'll start off, as every run will, going to the Altar of Hope, which is going to be your city. When you first arrive, the only one you'll be able to work on is the working fields, which is where you'll be able to unlock more trinkets, combat items, stagecoach items, and inn items. Now, you will initially start off with a few of each of these items available, but generally they're not very good. So the candles will allow you to recall these items. And by the way, too, as you unlock items at the beginning of every run, you will then start the run with that item. So if I unlock stale bread for the first time, I will start the run with that item. So not only will it be available for all future runs, I will start the run with that item. What I'm going to suggest, though, is get in items. I would say probably one of the most important things you want to get right away is this stale bread. So the only food you'll be eating at the start is the moldy food, which only gives plus 10% max health, and it has a chance to give you a disease or a quirk. The stale bread, no negatives, and gives you plus 20% max health. And the completed town. So this is all options within the town. First, you're going to have the Intrepid Coast. So in Journey, it's going to give you a bunch of upgrades to the Stagecoach. And Resourcefulness, you're going to get items from visiting locations and better scouting. Companionship is unlocking your different pets. I will say you should probably unlock this first one. So now you'll be able to add this orphan wolf cub onto your Stagecoach, and then all your heroes are going to get plus 5% stress resist per luxury gear item equipped on the Stagecoach. And you'll have plus 10% positive relationship chance. And so just to show you this Stagecoach item, it's listed as a luxury gear item. And like this one here, the Mortar and Pestle, that's a medical gear Stagecoach item. The Renown Path just gives you Stagecoach skins. So I would probably save that for last. And then this is the Infernal Flame, and you're going to have 5 different options for Infernal Flames. Despairing Flare, Corpse Light, Doom Candle, Hateful Pyre, and the Stygian Blaze. Would not recommend spending candles on those right away, unless you truly hate life. After that, we got the Working Fields. This is where you unlock your trinkets, combat items, Stagecoach items, and items. Next, we got the Living City. This is where you unlock all your heroes and where you upgrade them. So just to unlock any one of these characters, you need to spend 8 candles, except for the Bounty Hunter, who does work differently than every other hero. You cannot start with the Bounty Hunter. They're only going to appear if you had a hero die, and then you get to an inn, and then the Bounty Hunter has a chance of replacing that dead hero. In which, this does kind of suck. I wish you could choose a hero to replace your dead hero, but it's random. So I'll just say this. I had the Bounty Hunter unlocked, and the entire time I was playing through the beta, I never once got to see the Bounty Hunter. So you can unlock them if you want. It only costs 5 candles. But yeah, it's going to be rare to play as a bounty hunter. But then too, each one of these, as you upgrade, you get stuff like plus death resistance. You get unique trinkets for the hero. And each hero has 3 unique paths. And going back to every hero starts with just the Wanderer path. This is what I'm talking about, that you can swap out their paths. So just as an example with the Highwayman, this rogue path is going to be for point blank shots. This sharp shot path is going to be using range skills over melee skills. And this yellow hand path, you're not going to be wanting to use range skills. And this is based around his highway robbery and double cross skills. So definitely go through these, find the characters that you like the most, check out their paths, see how many candles you want to spend to unlock the paths that you want. And for the fourth tab, the Timeless Wood. So as your characters complete these confessions, they're going to unlock these memory slots. So right at the start here, I have 2 available, and those memories stay on the character as long as they do not die or are a part of a unsuccessful caravan trip. As long as they stay alive or you end expedition at an inn, that memory will stay. And 2, you can upgrade it through here so more memories will become available, and recalling memories costs less. So this is obviously more important in your later runs. And then this last and 5th tab is the Recollection. So these are all the items you've unlocked or have used before. And finally, there is a 6th tab that is locked until you've unlocked all heroes. Once you do that though, you'll unlock the Towering Mountain, which will allow you to customize all your heroes. So you'll be able to purchase with candles 3 different color variations for your heroes, and 3 different weapon arts, each of those corresponding to one of the hero's paths. That should be everything you need to know when starting out in Darkest Dungeon 2. As I always try to do, I did put a good amount of effort into making this video. So if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and or subscribe. And also, I will be streaming Darkest Dungeon 2 Sunday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Hopefully I'll see you there. Cheers.